So hi, welcome to the Good Noise Podcast. I'm Shane,
I'm Glory.
and we're here with.
Kyle from Archetypes Collide.
I have some questions to say about the upcoming self-titled album. So congrats on that, by the way. How do you feel about the response to the announcement so far?
Honestly, it's been really sweet. We just dropped our latest single, Parasite, and seriously, it's like completely blown up. A few Spotify editorial playlists have been. We got thrown on the cover of new metal music on Spotify. Like,
Hell yeah.
it's been absolutely insane, and just to see all the new people coming in that want to jump on this ship and run with us, and of course all the fans that have been with us for a long time. It's really cool to be able to share that moment with everyone. So it's heating up. It's going to be huge. We can really feel it.
Hell yeah. The album Rock Suffocate Me in particular is an absolute banger.
Heck yeah. That's one of my favorites.
Hell yeah.
Love it.
It's a heater.
Is there any reason behind this being your self-titled record, and is there any meaning behind the cover art?
Yeah. So actually, so this is our first full-length album we've ever done. Until now, we've always been an independent band, just doing our own thing, and financially that's really difficult to do a full-length album. So we've always been doing singles and EPs and stuff like that, and just making it work with what we got. But lately, over the last year, we signed a record deal with Fearless Records, and through them, we've been able to take our little brand and just really piggyback off of all the strengths that they have to take it to that next level. And so a big thing in that for us was solidifying our name, solidifying our brand, and really owning what the name is. So when we first started the band, 2014, we put our first music out. We chose the name Archetypes Collide, and I'll be honest, only because it sounded kind of cool. So, but through the process of the years and kind of seeing like what this band developed into and our styles and our sound, and we've kind of locked into our wheelhouse of what we do. We've really come to realize that this whole Archetypes Collide name, for us, what it's really meant now is taking different genre archetypes, taking different styles of music, and combining that into that whole umbrella of rock and metal. And so for us, it only made sense, like, hey, that's what we do. Why not just lead with our best foot, just self-title the album, let people know who we are. This is what we do. Every song on the album, I'm sure you're familiar, there's a big span of genres and styles that we do, and that's our passion. When we're songwriting, we love just seeing how far we can push those boundaries, but also staying true to who we are and what really drives us, and what we enjoy to play. So that's where the band name, just doing the self-titled album, made sense to us. As far as the artwork, it's a lotus flower, but for us visually, we wanted to really brand and have some sort of logo kind of branding that would make sense for us. And it's a bunch of different flowers conjoining at the center and just encapsulating that idea of different, per se, archetypes or styles or whatever it may be, kind of coming together at that center. So for us, we felt like that image really captured the idea we're going for. So we love it.
Oh yeah, it's awesome.
I love that.
So can you tell us a little bit about your writing process for this album?
Yeah. So the writing process, we've mentioned it before. We do a lot of co-writing with Ashi Bashar from Beartooth. He
Nice.
plays bass, does vocals live with them. And we've been working with him since 2020 now, which doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but it really was. I mean, it's almost been 3 years now since we started working with him. And so me and him and the guys, we do a lot of co-writing with him. He's such a fun personality to have in the studio. And, whether it's writing a riff or maybe fine-tuning a melody that we wrote with a demo or whatever it may be, he's really involved with that process. So, but as far as the writing goes for this album, I mean, everything just clicked. We try not to overthink it. Because a lot of times when you tend to like really meticulously try to get things perfect, that's where you'll just stalemate yourself and then you'll never get anything done. Yeah. And so it's kind of like, hey, it's, some people, I think they say it's like the 90% rule or whatever it is. Like, hey, if you think it's 90%, like, let's move on, get it out, and let's move to the next big thing. Like, don't be stuck on that last 10% for another 4 years. It's it's not going to make that big of a difference. So I think for us is just being straightforward with our songwriting. We write what we like. If it sounds good, let's do it. We don't worry about, oh, is it technical enough or is it artistic enough? It's like, no, like this, we enjoy this. This is the music we love to play, we love to listen to. And so we try to keep it simple, where it's just, hey, if it sounds good, it sounds good. We don't have to worry about all the, ticky tacky stuff. That's not really our style. So, but yeah, songwriting, that's one of our biggest things is at the core of every song, you could strip it down to an acoustic and play it and it'll still sound good. And so I think with a lot of these songs that we have written on this album, they definitely pass that acoustic test. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something we're really proud of in that songwriting process is, I think Ashi mentioned it. This whole album is like a pop goes punk album, except it's all originals. But it's like at the core, like, pop songs or, stuff that's on the radio. Like there's some really, really talented songwriters that like, even though it might sound, simple or whatever, at the core of it, that's because you've got a really great songwriter behind it. Mm-hmm. And so that's something that we've really taken a lot of pride in is just, keeping it simple, but keeping true to who we are and what we enjoy to play and just let the music kind of run off and do its thing. So.
Oh yeah. I mean, you mentioned that like there's the songs can be stripped back to like an acoustic state. Is the plan at any point to like put out acoustic versions of some of the songs?
Yeah. So definitely we're ahead of you. We've had the gear spinning with a lot of these tracks. We actually did not too long ago. We dropped a single called My Own Device, which will be on the album. And we did like a synthwave remix version of it.
Nice.
And like, it sounds so sick. And it's like, it's just a testament to like, hey, it was a great song. So like whatever genre you play it in, it's that whole pop goes punk mentality of like, hey, whatever genre you push this song into, it's going to sound really cool. So that's what excites us is a lot of these songs have really strong kind of roots to the songwriting process. So to be able to do an acoustic of them, there's a few on our radar that we're definitely entertaining the idea for to do some stripped ideas and to kind of see where that goes.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely. And I love to hear that you guys are so authentically yourself with your music. You guys aren't writing for like the radio or, oh, the fans are going to love this one because they liked this big song in the past. But when you're writing and you're creating this album, did you guys ever have any talks of that? Did you ever struggle with kind of like, oh, we should tweak this so it's more of a radio song?
Yeah. So, I mean, the reality is when you're writing metal, whether there's screaming involved, whether it's, riffs and stuff like that, typically radio isn't really what we're going for most of the time, Like we know there's been times in the past where we've had like, we wrote a song and we're like, hey, it had like a screaming part. I'm like, oh, maybe we should pull the screams out of it because then we'll have a better chance of radio. I'm like, that's local band Archetypes Collide 2016 thinking about that. It's like, that's not going to make a difference. What are we doing? Like, no one gives a damn about us having a track on our radio song. But I feel like lately there's been a huge shift in radio and what is actually like passes now. And so a lot of people think, radio is just watering down, no screaming, no crazy stuff, anything like that. And I think lately, especially with this whole like pop punk resurgence with like Black Bear and MGK and Avril Lavigne and all these people are starting to bring back that like 2000s pop punk that's a little more I guess you could say gritty or kind of more raw. I think that's going to open the door for a lot of really cool bands in the next few years in the rock and metal scene to have that resurgence of just that raw authentic rock with some screaming, with some heavy riffs, breakdowns. Like I feel like that's definitely on the horizon. So but yeah, in the songwriting process, we don't tend to battle with that, whether it's like, oh, this sounds really sick, but then this song wouldn't be able to go to radio. And it's like, we dropped our single, What If I Fall? And that like, it's pretty much a ballad. I mean, if you look at it, it's got all singing in the verses, the pre-chorus, the chorus, and then we have a breakdown and there's some screaming. And like, I don't think once we were ever like, no, let's not do screaming. That'll ruin it. We might not, it's like, no, this is sick. Like it's like an Under Oath style riff. Like it's going to our roots of what we love to play. And like, that's kind of the mindset is like, yeah, this is sick. Let's do it. Because once we start trying to water down, our art for stuff like that, I think that's where it can get a little sketchy.
Makes
So
sense.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So what song off this album took longest to write, and which one is your personal favorite?
ooh.
Mhm.
Longest song to write. Let's see. So I'd probably say, you know what? What's funny is Parasite was a demo that we had written a long time, not too long ago, but we had demoed it out, wrote a full chorus, wrote the pretty much majority of the song in demo. And then sometimes when you write demos and record them, they just don't sound. It's hard to hear like the big picture of like how it's going to sound when you go into studio, because typically like our demos aren't. If we show people what our demos sound like, they'll be like, "Yo, who are these dudes? Like they're trash, right?" Like, but that's everyone. Like everyone's demos are garbage, but you got to be able to see the big picture of like, hey, with the right production, with the right gear, we could take this song to that next level and kind of seeing that big picture. So Parasite was one of those songs where we had a demo for it. And like at the core, I knew it was a great song. Like as far as like the songwriting structure of it, I loved how it flowed, the chorus going into the verses and everything. And like, it had that like solid, like, hey, this is a great down the pipe metalcore, like jam. Like it's going to be fun once we take it to that next level. But that song didn't ended up getting recorded until towards the end of our album, when we had already recorded like 9 or 10 songs. We were pretty far in. Like, hey, what other ideas do we have? And we're like, oh, well, we have this demo that the demo is kind of iffy, but like we really feel like there's something there. And go figure, it's the song that's been popping off for us and like really creating some huge opportunities. So it's it's funny to see like when you have that gut, like, hey, I know this is a good song, but it just doesn't have the right, it's just not there yet because it's in a demo format. It's hard to see that big picture, but that song kind of sat on the back burner for a while until we had the time and place. We're like, oh yeah, we do have that demo. Yeah, let's do something. Let's see what we can come up with. And then boom, it's a fun song. So
absolutely, you got to trust the process.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it really is. Yeah, that whole recording demos and then having that big picture of knowing that, hey, this is going to sound, it sounds decent as a demo, but like knowing the big picture when you go to studio and you have the right gear and the producing, the production, all that stuff to take it to the next level. Like at the core of it for us, is it a great song? Does it strip down? Simple. What If I Fall? That song was an acoustic song that I wrote, just the chorus playing on my guitar, and wrote the chorus to that and just played it out. And like, that was it when we went in the studio with it. And like at the core, I'm like, hey, I know this is an amazing hook. Like we've got something here on acoustic. Let's build it out. And so just that idea of songwriting, like, hey, if it strips down and it makes sense and in your core, it does, it's going to do well. So yeah, it's cool to see it play out.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
So how'd the track list for your album come about? Did you guys write the opener be the opener, closer be the closer? Did you shuffle around and see what fits? What was that process like?
Yeah. So not really much of a, I guess, people do like concept albums where they're like, hey, we're going to tell a story through the whole process. For us, to be honest, like every song we wrote felt like it could be its own single. You mentioned Suffocate Me, like stuff like that is, I mean, it's a heater,
Sounds
and like
crazy.
Whether to use that or Parasite, those were kind of like, which one should we, those are kind of those same vein of just songs that we know are going to do so well that all the metalheads, that love us are going to love it. All the people that just love, the melodic side of things are still going to love it because it's a great song. And so for us, the organization of it, I mean, we definitely led with, typically most albums, the first 5-6 songs are, you got a lot of heaters up front, and you got some of the kind of more outside of your wheelhouse kind of artistic songs towards the middle, back, and then of course to close out the song, we've got some stuff that gets a little bit heavier as far as the emotional, lyrical, melodic side of things. So I think it takes a pretty natural course. It just made sense to us, but by no means is it like a concept album or anything like that. So
Makes sense.
Gotcha. So would you be able to tell us where your headspace is at while you're creating this record?
Yeah. So, let's see. I mean, this album, lyrically, there's a lot of stuff we cover. This was the first album we wrote where we had been coming off of our we wrote some of it before we went on our first tour with Amity Affliction, and that was like our first national tour ever. Before then, just playing locally. Yeah, we played in California once or twice, but like that's basically it. Like we don't travel, trailer van, nothing like that. And so that album was kind of written in that mindset. There's a song called Fade Away where lyrically it's written about the sleepless nights. You're kind of led along by the street lights, and just that like you're in the tour van in the middle of, I don't know, Nebraska or something like that. Just like,
fucking Nebraska.
It's like hey, great state. But it's kind of boring to drive through, let me tell you.
Yeah.
But stuff like that, it's that headspace of like, hey, we're about to take this to the next level. And like, I'm pretty comfortable, like I've got a wife and kids and at home and stuff. And like, I've got a family that I want to take care of. And, the song, What If I Fall, leans into that of like, hey, what if everything that I've got good going for me, what if this just screws it all up because we're finally taking it to that next level? It's a risk. Yeah. And so I think lyrically, there was a lot of songs that stemmed out of that, just the anxiety of it all and processing through that. And, lyrically for us, we tend to write stuff that, feels, we never want to write something that doesn't, isn't us, or write lyrically for, in a place where we're not actually there or have experienced those emotions. So I think naturally that just found its way into this album. There's another song called Destiny on the album that's lyrically about, hey, like we hit this goal and it's like, okay. And you wake up the next day and you're like, well, shoot, that was cool. But now what? You're looking back up, like trying to figure out what's the next mountain peak, what's the next, to get to in that grind. So yeah, I think a lot of the lyrics and the writing of the album definitely revolves around just the things we experience as a band on the road and through this process of taking this local band to that next level with, national touring and stuff like that. It'll be a cool thing to look back on and see the lyrics and how the process of the band one day, where we were at that time, and just to kind of relive it through those songs. I think it'll be really cool one day. So.
Hell yeah. That's
Absolutely.
Awesome. So this question should be super, super quick. Off the top of your head, I want you to describe this album for new listeners in 3 words, no more, no less.
How about this?
Okay.
Sick workout music.
That's good. There
Perfect. You go. I love it. I love it.
That's what I was saying. That's what we always joke about. Like whenever people ask like, oh, what kind of style of music you play, that don't really know, what I do or stuff like that. It's like, we basically write workout music or, really that's a lot of people. That's the jam, right? You want to get that max, get those reps in. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So can you talk about any particularly challenging or standout moments during the creation of this album?
I think the only challenging thing was just the personal stuff. We recorded all of our stuff in Ohio, Columbus, actually a little bit north of Galena, which is where some of the guys, Ashi and our manager Tom and Beartooth, and they all kind of hang out around that area. So it was cool to work with Ashi and all that process. But we recorded in Ohio. When we for this album, it was my wife was probably like 8 months pregnant when we started recording, and then yeah. And so and then we finished recording. I was home for about a month and a half to 2 months. Our child was born, Lila, and then basically like 2 to 3 weeks later, we had our opportunity to go out on the road with the Amity Affliction, which was our first national tour. So it was like the whole recording process to the tour and this whole band kind of blowing up is like, I've got all this stuff at home that I'm trying to maintain. Like those were the biggest things for me. The whole thing, once you're in a studio and like, hey, we're on vacation, like this is fun. Like we're writing, we're just doing what musicians do. We're all confident in our abilities, being able to, record and track what we want to do and bringing that to life. So that's all fun and games for us. But I think, for me mentally is like, hey, like I said, with some of these songs that I wrote is I want to be able to take care of my people, back home while still being able to take care of, the guys in the band or, all the fans that listen to us that kind of depend on us to bring them that. Just the balance of that, trying to figure that out over the past year has been really interesting unfortunately, I've got a great network and family at home, and obviously my wife Elizabeth she's awesome. She's got a feature on on Fade Away. If you hear the little voice
awesome.
that's Fade Away,
Oh.
I had her send me a voice memo when we were recording, like, "Hey, I need you to say this so we can put it on the song." So
That's so
awesome.
cool.
she's excited she gets to be famous.
hell yeah.
Just bridging that gap between the band and the family and the personal and stuff. Kind of finding that middle ground has been really interesting throughout the year. But I feel like we've really got a great balance now. Establishing what's expected and what we're doing. So I'm excited for this year. I feel like everything's going to pop off. It's going to be huge. So
It's going to be fucking awesome.
yeah.
Hell yeah. So picture this, you're on tour, you're at a gas station for a rest stop. What is your snack of choice?
Snack of choice, Starbucks double shot.
Mhm.
The cans, yeah. The guys always rip on me because I tend to chug them, and they're like, "Bro, you're supposed to sip on coffee. What's wrong with you?" There was a time on tour where I got one. I'm like, honestly, I'm kind of tired. Someone else was driving, and I'm like, I'm just gonna go to sleep. So I'm like, well, I've got this drink, so I chugged it, and then I went to sleep. And the guys are like, "How is this possible?"
That's crazy.
Oh my god.
So I'm kind of I have no issue with sleeping. That's like one of my greatest strengths and
That's good.
weaknesses.
It's good strength out on tour, though.
Oh
yeah. Starbucks double shot, that's the move. We've been converted recently to the drink called Celsius, which is like an energy drink. And that stuff, you got to get a few hours of driving in, maybe like a 6-hour drive from blank to blank, wherever it is. That's a necessity for us. Let's get this going. So we love our coffees, love our little energy drinks. But yeah, that's my go-to, Starbucks double shot.
Hell yeah.
Perfect. So for these last couple of questions, we're actually going to shift away from music, if that's okay with you.
Cool.
Awesome. So we're actually going to go straight to death row.
Boom.
So if you're on death row, what would your last meal be with a drink?
Oh man, last meal with a drink.
Yep.
Drink is going to be Dr. Pepper for sure.
Okay. Taste.
Okay.
Mhm.
Last meal, I've got to go Mexican food. There's a place in Arizona. It's called El Encanto, and it's like up north, Scottsdale, super nice kind of setup there. But yeah, they do like a deep fried burrito, with the rice and the beans and stuff. Like, I feel pretty good going out after eating that. So
Sounds good.
Absolutely.
little enchilada sauce, yeah. Oh yeah.
So if you could live in one fiction world for a week, where would you live?
Fictional world for a week. We'll go to my 90s roots. Pokemon would be amazing and probably terrifying at the same time because they're like monsters and stuff. But that's my go-to. On the road, I have my DS, and I have all the old school games like Pokemon Red and Yellow and stuff like that. I love playing those like just single player in my own world. I don't do multiplayer games a lot, so I've always enjoyed the nostalgia of those 1998, 99 Pokemon games. Those are fun. So I've always got that close by.
So I have the honor of asking the last question. Every single person we've spoken to has actually said it is the most important question.
Got it.
What is your favorite color?
Blue.
You have a specific shade of blue?
I tend to like the deep blues. I like the maybe like a royal blue, I think would probably be, or like a navy blue. It feels peaceful. It feels a little bit, not necessarily warm, but just kind of that just, it's restful. It feels. I like that. I like sleeping.
Absolutely. I love it.
So as Gloria said, that's all the questions we have today. Is there anything that you'd like to plug?
No, outside of our self-titled album, pending whenever interview drops for this, it's coming out March 31st. It's going to be huge. We just announced a tour with Beartooth and Trivium and Malevolence. That's going to be starting in May for us, which is going to be huge. It'll be the biggest tour we've ever done. And then outside of that, I'm sure there'll be a couple festivals here and there that we'll learn about. But for now, new album dropping the 31st of March. And then we've got this massive tour with Tooth and Trivium. The shows are going to be massive. It'll be the biggest tour we've ever done. So we're super excited about that.
Oh, yeah.
So excited for you guys.
All right. Well, thank you for now. It's been Kyle from Archetypes Collide, and we have been the Good Noise Podcast.